Good evening, everybody. I'm Chris Ronayne, president of University Circle Incorporated. I hope you are well tonight, and I don't think it's too late to still wish you a happy new year. Let's hope for a healthy, happy new year for all of us. I know 2020 was quite a year, and we're looking forward to working with you over the course of the year ahead. I'm joined by a number of my colleagues at UCI tonight. I want to make a special mention of a person I saw just a minute ago, and that's Councilman Blaine Griffin. Councilman Griffin, thank you for joining us tonight. I see a number of residents in our audience. Thank you, residents here in University Circle and beyond, our blocks in the neighborhoods adjacent and also around the region. We build this as a pedestrian safety advisory meeting, and particularly we wanted to emphasize making this safe for residents, for workers, for students, and for all passersby in the circle. It's a very important topic that UCI has taken on, and frankly, our portfolio of services has grown right into the need to provide more transportation safety. Tonight, you're going to hear from two of our project points about a project called Project Yield. And the name more or less speaks for itself. And this is about an initiative to continue to make this a safe environment for our pedestrians from wherever they come. We hope that you can offer ideas as we go tonight, and we hope that you can ask questions tonight, and we hope that you'll keep that ongoing throughout the course of the year as we meet several times. To put this in perspective, this is a neighborhood that thankfully continues to grow. It grows in workforce. It was the fastest growing workforce neighborhood in the first 10 years of the 2000s. It continues to grow as one of the fastest growing resident neighborhoods in our current era that we are in. We are a proud neighborhood of the city of Cleveland, and we are glad that we are offering a growth proposition. We started out as an organization, as a land bank that frankly bought land for institutions. And we realized over time, we needed to diversify our services. We went from land bank to land builder. And from that, when we realized that we had continued to grow as a community, we needed to really double down on the idea of services. So you see some of the services in that middle tranche that really are fundamentally important to that left column. If we're going to develop as a community, we need to continue to keep this community safe, clean, and attractive. And then very importantly, this is a community that welcomes all comers from everywhere, whether it's our Wait Oval Wednesday concerts that we hope to bring back in 2021, or any of our seasonal events, or our everyday learning from students all throughout this region, and very particularly also from school children who come right from the blocks nearby. This is a place that continues to grow, and as it grows, we would be remiss if we didn't think about transportation in our planning as an integrated part of planning, and if we didn't think about safety as an integrated part of those plans. Again, you'll hear from Annie a little bit about the statistics that confront us. With some 50,000 workers in the neighborhood, with some 10,000 residents, there are confluences, there are crashes, and there are all too often serious injuries and even fatalities. We had encountered over the last year and a half some very, very, very tragic circumstances, fatalities in blocks of University Circle, and very, very serious injuries. We want to essentially reverse that course. Operating under the city's Vision Zero, the idea that we can zero out pedestrian fatalities as cities larger than us around the world have done in places like Oslo and elsewhere that have literally set a goal to eliminate any pedestrian fatalities, and they've achieved it. That's the goal also of the city of Cleveland, and it's our goal too. So again, I'm glad to have our colleagues from Transportation and Safety speak. I'm glad I see Councilman Griffin, and I may be seeing Councilman Conwell as well on this line. Thank you, council members, for joining us in this effort. And at this hour, it becomes also my kids' hour. So if you hear voices in the background, I'm going to mute not just me, but them. And I'm going to go to Annie Pease to talk a little bit about why we were here. Residents, thank you for being here. Stay with us, give us your input and ideas, and tell us where we need to address situations with the city of Cleveland. Thanks again. And Councilman, was there anything you wanted to say? Councilman Griffin, who I see, I haven't seen Councilman Conwell yet.
No, just to echo what you said, I do think that we have a couple of people on here from Vision Zero. I know that this was the brainchild and really worked with former Councilman Matt Zone, but council is here to carry it through as being chair of the new safety committee, which is a role that I have recently assumed. I'm going to work closely with Ann Tilley, who's on the line, as well as Callie Mersman, to really try to push forward the principles of Vision Zero. So hopefully this falls within that, and I'm really very committed to traffic safety. So thank you so much, Mr. Rowe.
Thanks for the support, Councilman, and congratulations on your new post. Blaine Griffin, our councilman from the 6th Ward, is the new Safety Committee Chair. So that's great news for all of us. Thanks, Blaine. Thanks for being with us tonight too, Councilman. Okay, Annie.
Thank you, Chris, and thank you, Councilman Griffin, for your introductions. Hi, everyone. It's so great to see so many people on the line tonight. As Chris mentioned, my name is Annie Pease. I'm the Director of Transportation at UCI. And for the first portion of the meeting, we have some background and context to share on why we're having this meeting to begin with, a little bit of context on some data and what we understand is a pedestrian safety issue in our neighborhood. We are going to get to questions and comments following that background. Throughout the meeting, we have participants on mute to prevent some background noise. We encourage folks, for sure, when we get to the questions and comments part, to enter your questions and your comments into the chat box. If you also have some ongoing questions throughout the meeting, you're welcome to enter those into the chat box as you think of them. We'll be scanning those. Thank you to my colleagues from UCI who are on, also helping keep on top of the chat box. For any other IT issues that come up, please use the chat, the meeting chat. With that, I'm actually going to start off our meeting with a poll question to get a sense of who we have in the audience. So on your screen, you'll see a box pop up. And the question is, how do you identify with University Circle? This is a multiple answers are allowed on this poll question. So if you live and work in University Circle, there are 2 boxes there for you. Something for everyone on here. So go ahead and check those boxes. We'll give people a couple more seconds to submit. All right, and we have a couple of these questions throughout our presentation, so be at the ready to participate here. But let's see what we're seeing. So we have about 50% of people who identify as living in University Circle, 50% as working in University Circle. Excellent. 40% are regular visitors, and we have a chunk there who are interested in pedestrian safety. So to all, thank you for joining us on this topic. All right, so to kick us off, the reason that pedestrian safety in and of itself became such a focus of our safety efforts is that last winter, between November of 2019 and February of 2020, UCI became aware of 10 crashes that resulted in injury or death involving pedestrians in our streets. It was a 4-month period, and these statistics were really alarming to us. And looking through the background information that we had on each of these incidences, we were also made aware that all 10 involved pedestrians crossing the street in marked crosswalks. So different times of day, many did occur at night, but really dispersed across the district. We have a number of maps to share, but this kind of high concentration of crashes in a short amount of time really pressed us to look more into this issue and understand what was going on. So we did just that, and we looked at some safety data over the last 5 full years. So this was at the beginning of 2020. We looked at the last 5 full complete years of data, which was 2015 through 2019. And what we wanted to understand was whether that preponderance of crashes was unusual, or if that was something that happened regularly and we had not been aware previously, but we wanted to contextualize that information and what had been going on year to year leading up to that. So we looked at between 2015 and 2019, and we looked at all crashes in University Circle. So these are like all fender benders, rear end crashes, crashes that result in injury or death, all crashes. The overall number of crashes went down between 2015 and 2019, which is great. But the alarming part is that the number of crashes involving pedestrians specifically had risen by 33%, and the severity of crashes overall had risen by over 100%. So these were the parts that were alarming to us. And what also stood out is that year to year, on average, we have 20, the data shows us that we have 20 pedestrians being struck by cars while crossing the street. And these are the ones that generate a crash report. So these are the ones that are reported. And our understanding of traffic safety is that there's likely a portion that go unreported as well. So these are crashes that have documentation. And on average, that's 20 per year. So 10 in a 4-month period is significant and cause for concern. We mapped out the same data that we looked at over the last 5 years. We mapped this out across the streets in University Circle to identify road safety hotspots. And what we're looking for on maps like this is whether we see red, yellow, orange, and green dots close together. And that is cause for concern because the bigger and the more red those dots are, the more severe the crashes are. So the big red dots are fatal crashes. And the little blue dots are the fender benders, no injury, kind of a byproduct of having a busy area. But anything that's green, yellow, orange, and red, particularly orange and red, are of serious concern to us. So in looking at these maps, we really have our eye on East 105th Street with that concentration of 4 red dots along the East 105th Street corridor. Euclid Avenue having a large number of pedestrian crashes, specifically yellow dots. Cornell Road having several orange dots close together. Mayfield has a number of pedestrian crashes, and MLK stands out as another hotspot. So a number of areas specifically in the district really stand out to us as areas that we want to focus our attention on and make sure that any interventions that UCI leads are directed to have the highest impact. So I'm going to pause here and put up our second poll question back to you, our community on our meeting. This question is, how do you typically get around University Circle? Do you know we're about split 50-50 employees, residents, a handful of interested folks, and a number of people who visit? Again, this is a question where you can select more than one answer. So if you walk and drive, select both of those. If you do all 4 of these, you can select all 4. But go ahead. We'll give folks a couple more seconds to respond. All right. And we see that, okay, we have about 95% of people indicate that they're walking, 82% are driving, 32% on a bike, 29% taking public transportation, RTA or one of our University Circle shuttles. Excellent. So we have a very multimodal audience on our call today. All right, with that, after UCI kind of dove into this data and better contextualize what happened last winter relative to the last 5 years, we've been working with and in partnership with the University Circle Police Department, who has collected new data throughout 2020 to understand how vehicular traffic, how cars are moving on some of these streets, and paying attention in particular to those road safety hotspots. So at this point, I'm going to turn over the presentation to Chief Rapicki with University Circle Police Department. If you should be able to unmute yourself and come right on.
I think I'm on now.
You are, we hear you. And I'll advance the slides for you, Chief.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon or good evening, everyone. My name is Jim Rapicki, the Police Chief for University Circle Police Department. As Annie had stated previously, that we've been working over a year on gathering speed data throughout the circle. What I'd like to do is to go around from Wade Park down and then back up. And the last one we'll cover is East Boulevard. But there's really some interesting data on these intersections or streets. The first one is Wade Park. We did speed readings eastbound on Wade Park around Mistletoe. And we found in November of this year, it was 9,820 vehicles in a 6-day span that went by our speed meter. And of that total, 507 were speeding at least 36 to 60 miles an hour.
Wow.
That's a large speed difference from the 25-mile-an-hour speed limit on Wade Park. And it's only one lane, even though people drive at 2, it's only one lane. It's not wide enough for 2. The next area of discussion is East 105 at Park Lane. Or no, we did it at East Boulevard, which is just north or south of VA Hospital. And we did this in December of this year. And that area changes after you pass MLK crossing 105, it changes to 25 rather than 35. There was 19,200 vehicles also in December of this year. And there was 3,015 vehicles speeding in a 6-day period, continuous 6 days. That's 3,015, as I noted before, anywhere between 36 to 60 miles an hour. And if you figure that out, divided by 6 days, that means there's 502 speeders a day, 21 per hour. That is a high figure for that area, which goes into a business district and a residential area going north on 105. The next area on the bottom left, Martin Luther King Boulevard, is the area it's southbound by Jephthah, by the Art Museum, going south on MLK toward Chester. And this one's done back in March for another 6-day period. And there was 596 vehicles speeding. There was a total of 11,350 vehicles going southbound for that 6-day period. After you divide that by 6 days, it comes out to 99 vehicles were speeding per day. And the speed limit there, believe it or not, is 30 miles going south and only 25 coming back north. I don't know if they ran out of a 25 going up the hill or what, but that's something we're going to look into. Okay, the next one is on the right side going up Cedar Avenue. Yes, Cedar Avenue. This was on March 3rd to April 4th earlier in 2020. It's a 35-mile speed limit. And there was 1,086 vehicles were speeding out of 20,265 during that 6-day period. What I'd like to note on this one, and I'll cover the next one, Euclid Avenue, is when we did speeding, we checked speeding in April and then again in April and October. There was a difference of 6,500 vehicles less in October. And I believe one of the big reasons was of the pandemic. Many people were working at home. A lot of people use Cedar to go downtown or to the clinic or other places of employment. So that was very interesting there, that reduction of 6,500 vehicles per week on Cedar. The next one is Euclid Avenue. There was, this was done on end of April 27th to May 2nd, another 6-day period. It was 24,600 vehicles going westbound at East 116th by the Hearing and Speech Center. And that was, that's a 25-mile-an-hour zone. Let me see if I got the right one. 24, yes. There was 2,060 vehicles, and you divide that by 6 days, that's 342 people speeding in that 2-lane going westbound. That averages out to 14 people speeding per hour. And then the last one I'd like to cover is East Boulevard. And that's right over by, just north of, street was that? Ford Avenue, going north, right by Botanical Gardens and heading toward Hazel, where the Cleveland Institute of Music is. We did this in October, 19th to the 24th, 6 days, 25-mile-an-hour speed limit. And this was kind of interesting. It was a 25-mile-an-hour zone, and usually throughout my career and other people I've talked to, usually people were cited for speeding between 8 and 10 miles an hour over the limit. So I looked at the data, and between anybody that was over 10 miles an hour was a large amount was between 31 and 35 miles an hour, 243 out of 270 speeders, which is 90%. So if and when we do some enforcement over there, we'll be looking at people in the low 30s to hopefully slow them down due to the turn on the road contour, and also the pedestrian crosswalk, and also many case students and other people visiting the institutions in the area. I think that covers that map.
Thank you, Chief. And I think we're going to go back to Annie, but I wanted to welcome Councilman Kevin Conwell on the line. Thank you, Councilman, for being with us, as well as Councilman Griffin and the many members of City Hall, from CPD to our Vision Zero team that are with us, and residents. Thanks again. Let's go back to Annie.
All right. Chief, did you want to cover this last slide?
Yes, please. This slide just reinforces what I've been talking about for the last couple of minutes, as far as the red shows results in a fatality if you're going 20 miles an hour. When it goes to 30, it's 40%, and 40 miles an hour, it's 80%. So the data I gave you, you can understand the chance of somebody not surviving a crash at over 40 miles an hour. It's very high. But our main purpose, or our main responsibility in this pedestrian safety, is going to be slowing down vehicle traffic. It's protecting the pedestrian and other people on bikes or mopeds or scooters. We started this back in November because of the daylight savings time, and it's going to go through mid-March, but we're going to continue throughout the year. A couple of things that Annie noted already is we've been working with CPP, and the thing is darkness in some areas of University Circle, especially Mayfield and Euclid and Ford. Cleveland has a program for the last couple of years. They're replacing all the lights with LED bulbs. And that intersection, I think, is in the midst of getting replaced with LED lights. And we usually check, the midnight shift usually checks the street lights twice a month throughout the University Circle to make sure all of them are working properly. And our planning is still a work in progress. And again, I thank you for any questions you might have and your participation tonight.
Thank you so much, Chief. So with that, I'm going to pop up our next 2 poll questions. We have 2 back-to-back. And these questions are related. They're kind of 2 sides of the same coin, but we want to know, in your experience, which of these things most enables you to walk safely in University Circle? And we have options like the sidewalks are generally in good condition and accessible for people using wheelchairs, strollers, etc. There are other people around, so it doesn't feel isolated. Streetlights are functional and keep the area illuminated at night. There's generally not too much car traffic, and cars are generally friendly to pedestrians. So which of those things most enables you to walk safely in University Circle. And on this question, you can only select one answer because we're looking for the most. And then the other side of that coin is, in your experience, which of these things is the biggest deterrent to walking safely in University Circle? And your answer choices are sort of the opposite of the 5 that were presented in that first question. We'll give people a few more seconds longer on this poll question because it's a double in the same poll. And then we'll see what folks are sharing. All right, let's see the results of these 2 poll questions. All right, so which of these things most enables us to walk safely in University Circle? Sidewalks being in good condition and accessible for people using wheelchairs, strollers, etc. Followed by, there's usually a good number of other people around, so it doesn't feel so isolated. Second question, the opposite, in your experience, which is the biggest deterrent to walking safely in University Circle? And yeah, 61% of folks saying cars are not friendly to pedestrians. All right, so thank you for sharing your responses to the poll questions. We'll have those to go back to. I'm going to walk through a few things that UCI, in addition to the data collection and advocacy that UCPD has led. We've done a few more awareness raising tactics and largely communication around this issue with road safety. And before I get into what we've done, I want to talk a little bit more about UCI's role. I'm sure we have a mix of folks on the line, some of whom are more familiar with UCI's work and the various things that the organization does. But as it relates to safety, UCI is a place-based nonprofit community organization, and our functions range as it relates to pedestrian safety, from transportation planning to community education, public safety, and advocacy for our neighborhood. Advocacy very broadly on a number of different topics, including safety. Because of our status as a nonprofit community organization, UCI is not always in the position to make the changes that we think are necessary or to make the changes that we want to do. But we are in a position to advocate. We are a partner to public agencies and to our community. So a big element of having our pedestrian safety advisory meetings throughout this year as it relates to this topic is that we really want to hear from users of our roadway system. We want folks to share with us when they experience a close call or near miss incident on our roadways. As you noticed at the beginning of our meeting, a lot of our dive on the data around road safety has been at looking at crash data. And a way that we can be more proactive about collecting close call roadway issues is by documenting when near miss or close call roadway incidences happen. So if we could advance to the next slide. There we go. One of the tools that we have in partnership with Cleveland's Vision Zero team is a close call form. And you can find this form by going to universitycircle.org/Project Yield, like you see on the screen. And there is a red button on that screen where you can report your close call. You drop in the time of day, you can drop a pin on the location where that incident happened. And this map towards the bottom of the screen, it's a crowdsourced map. So these pins actually are the data points that folks have uploaded to our form. UCI regularly reviews those submissions, the close call incidences near University Circle. We're watching them. If they relate to one of our partners, we share those close call incidences with them. And it's another portal that will really help us be proactive in some of these interventions by having better data. So we encourage you, if you do experience what can be a very traumatic thing in having a near miss or close call roadway incident, you can upload it to our form there. I have we have one more poll question to share with the group before we move on to our question and answer portion of the meeting. Our question is, how can we best engage with you, our community, on these issues around pedestrian safety? This is another question where you can select multiple selections. So select all that apply. Regular Zoom meetings is one option. Organized walk audits, where we would meet in small socially distant groups to see different parts of the neighborhood and experience it on foot. Regular open office hours with UCI staff, surveying, maybe more of a formalized pedestrian council, or other. Go ahead and make your selections. We'll give you a few seconds. All right, and let's see what how folks have weighted on this poll. All right, so quite a mix here. So regular Zoom meetings were the fan favorite, organized walk audits being a very close second. Regular surveys, a more formalized pedestrian council, number 4. Open office hours, and other. All right, so with that, I'm curious for anyone who selected other on that last poll question. I will turn this over to the chat box and the questions and comments. But for anyone who selected other for that last question, how you'd like to engage or how UCI can best engage you on this topic, and you selected other, let us know in the chat what your thoughts are. Great.
Annie, I wanted to welcome one of the Deans of Transportation Planning, Howard Mayer from formerly NOACA is on the line tonight. Welcome, Howard. It's good to see you. And Howard knows well the value of transportation management associations and organizations, which our UGO that Annie is now running is much akin to. The idea is bringing in more of your ideas to create a more multimodal, safer, ecumenical place. And so I think Annie's transportation work very much integrates into our planning. But Howard, we learned some of that from you. So thanks for being here.
Great to be here. You guys are doing a great service with this planning effort.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Howard. All right, so I'm going to pop back into the chat box here and pull out, address some questions. So as I go through, please add your questions to the chat box. General comments, they don't have to be questions. Additionally, what we'll do following this meeting is we will send a survey to everyone who attended. And if you have additional thoughts or you'd prefer not to share your thoughts in the chat box, you can respond to that survey and our staff will get in touch with you following the meeting. So just another platform. And my colleagues from UCI who are also on the line, some of these questions I may ask for some assistance in answering these as we go through. So thank you in advance for your help. All right, I am going to start with a question from Mark. And that is, the biggest hazard I face frequently is bicycles on sidewalks. I've been sideswiped, knocked over, and my car has been hit by a bicycle on a sidewalk. All right, so good question, Mark. I guess more of a comment. But bicycles on sidewalks are, that happens around University Circle. We've gotten more and more feedback on this topic as well. Since scooters have come on the scene in Cleveland as well. And so I noticed in that comment too, Mark, you mentioned that you've been hit and your car has been hit by a bicycle on the sidewalk. So, the reason that sidewalk riding is really discouraged is for safety reasons. And it's dangerous for pedestrians who can be passed by a bicycle moving at high speeds. And it's also dangerous for the cyclist because they move faster than pedestrians do and are less visible, therefore, to a car coming out of a driveway or something, and much closer than they are if they were riding in the road. So bikes are indeed supposed to ride in the streets, and we have done a number of messaging campaigns in our business districts in particular, reminding folks that using a bike or using scooters, that they are supposed to ride in the streets and that is their proper place. The streets are for everyone, not just for cars, for cyclists as well. So thank you, Mark, for that comment. We have another comment on the Cedar University Rapid Station. East 105th is Chester. Yes. Yes, it looks like we've had a couple of comments on the MLK Cedar Carnegie intersection over by the Cedar University Rapid Station. That has been an area that there's a lot going on over there. We have a lot of confluence of car traffic there, lots of pedestrian traffic. We have two high schools in the area. John Hay and Cleveland School of the Arts are right there too. So we sure have a lot of people passing through that area. And we have made some improvements. We've extended a curb to narrow MLK in that area, shortening the crossing distance and a number of crossings for students who take the RTA to get to school and need to cross MLK and Stearns to get over to their buildings. But there's still a good amount of work to be done in that area. I see, okay, we have a comment from Nate on delivery services like DoorDash and Uber Eats. There's a problem with people parking in the middle of the street. This is frequently in the middle of Euclid where emergency vehicles travel constantly along with regular traffic. It is happening in places where there is parking, some free, some available. Thank you, Nate, for this comment. You know, this is, I think, a challenge of introducing a mixed-use district on what may have more been a vehicular thoroughfare previously. We now have fast casual restaurants. I recognize this as an issue in Uptown along Euclid Avenue. And we have certain spots. We have some parking along Euclid Avenue, but the most convenient parking and the best spot for delivery vehicles to go is actually behind those buildings and parking lots right behind. So it really eliminates the need for delivery vehicles to stop on Euclid Avenue for the purpose of delivery. I appreciate that comment. I see a comment on Park Lane and 107th are a major problem for residents of Jensen Manor. Please study how to make crossing East 107th Street safer. Thank you, Georgiana. I see this comment, and I know there is a lovely park right across East 107th Street from Jensen Manor, and also the access point to the Nord Family Greenway is in that area. So crossing East 107th Street is a big priority. That is very important.
And Annie, I'll just jump in on this. I want to thank, there are many, many residents from Judson here tonight and possibly Park Lane too on this block. I really appreciate your being here. I also see Block Club leaders like Barbara Norton from Wade Park. Thank you, leadership. If it makes sense, not to put too much work on Annie's shoulders, but working with council members, Connell and Griffin, if it makes sense, and also Jones, our three council members, to have a specific site-specific meeting about things like you just brought up at Park Lane and 107. We should. We got a lot of development happening, as Councilman Griffin and Connell know, in the area. Circle Square, I can say it before you say it, but I know it's on your mind too, generating a lot more traffic, pedestrian, vehicular, and otherwise. So if we need to have a site-specific meeting with representatives from the city of Cleveland, I would encourage that, and particularly the blocks you bring up, from 105 back to Chester, we should talk. There's been discussions, I know I've heard from residents about one-way, two-way, narrowing, traffic calming and such. So we're yours and could meet separately with our council members and with residents on these issues on block by block basis. Thanks.
Thank you, Chris. I see we have a number of comments on some feedback for things for us to look into. So all of this is documented and things that our staff can follow up on. I'm jumping down to, these are great ideas that are in the chat. I could think about these for quite some time. Janice has a question and a comment. The ability to report close calls and streetlight outages is appealing. Might we have some other kind of general pedestrian safety reporting? Snow on sidewalks, crosswalks that flood, cracked or broken sidewalks. Happy to take photos and submit. Janice, that is a great question. One channel for reporting hazards in the public right of way. So things like snow on sidewalks or cracked or broken sidewalks, missing bricks in the crosswalk. Sometimes after it snows, we hear complaints about snow in the bicycle lanes. Issues like this can be reported to the city's 311 action line. So this is a real hotline where if you just dial the numbers 311 from your cell phone and call this number during business hours, a person will answer and take your complaint and direct it to the appropriate entity within the city to address. So that's one channel and something that UCI can also assist in that reporting and follow-up. I like that idea. We have another question. Is bicycle safety being considered along with pedestrian safety or as a separate issue? That is a great question. Hi, Mitch. That is, bike safety is being considered alongside pedestrian safety. One of the new practices that we've instituted among our staff is that when we are made aware of a crash involving a pedestrian or a cyclist, UCI sends a team of people out to investigate the area and determine if there are near-term things that we can do to make the area safer. Are there signs missing? Is there a light that's out that needs to be addressed? Things like that that we can advocate for or implement. So we are considering bike safety along with pedestrian safety very much together. Another question we have from Maddie. Hi, Maddie. Would it be possible to add a pedestrian only period at the intersection of Euclid and Mayfield Ford? This strategy has worked well in the commercial districts in Cleveland Heights. The left turn issue from Mayfield onto Euclid has been an issue for years. All right, so we have a couple items in there. A pedestrian only period at the intersection of Euclid, Mayfield Ford. That is a great question. Maddie, one of the things we are working on there, it wouldn't be a pedestrian only period, but we have a change that is soon coming to that intersection is an advanced pedestrian phase. So one of the challenges at that intersections are on turns. Oftentimes vehicles make a turn and the bar and on the front of their car can obstruct the view of a pedestrian in the crosswalk as they turn. And by allowing pedestrians to enter the crosswalk in advance of when the motorists get the green, it puts them out in front of the cars a little bit more than if they were to get the green at the same time. So that's a change that's currently underway. And the left turn issue from Mayfield onto Euclid has been an issue for years. Yes, we agree. My colleague, as Debbie Berry, is also on our call today. Debbie, is there anything, would you like to weigh in on some of the more technical elements of that question?
It definitely is an intersection that we've been looking at for a long time. Those of you that are very familiar with it, and I think that somebody indicated this when you're crossing Euclid, the cars have an arrow and they just do not slow down and are turning into people. So we have been working with the city for some time to try to change what's called the phasing so that cars are not turning at the same time the pedestrians are trying to cross. The pedestrians, as Annie said, would have that right of way to go first, and the cars would not be turning. So we will definitely work on that. This is really helpful that you're citing that as a major concern. So I think we can work with our council people and the city to get some changes there. Thanks, Annie.
Thank you, Debbie. All right, so we have another question from Barb. Hi, Barb. Why are only some of the crosswalk areas illuminated? So this is a good question. Barb, I'm not sure if would you clarify that question a little bit for us?
Yeah, I just did in the chat. I'm referring to the actual areas that are designated for pedestrians to cross, i.e. the one by the art museum. If you push a button, it illuminates. The one you go a little further down by the botanical garden, it does not. And that's, throughout the designated areas, I think all of them should illuminate to make sure that it is recognized that people are crossing, because sometimes people are standing there talking and then they start walking. And I know I have had people step out and it's like, okay, so
yes,
that would seem if they would illuminate either as they make the step, you push the button, that is also a helpful indicator and safety measure.
yes. So Barb, that is great. Thank you for clarifying the question. So those lights on the crosswalk signs are flashing lights, and they're activated by the person who is ready to cross. There are a number of locations across the district and nearby that have those flashing lights. Barb, those are often installed in areas where visibility is an issue for some reason, and in areas where yielding rates are really low, and adding those flashing lights helps an oncoming car know that there's a pedestrian waiting to cross. It's another cue to the driver that someone is either in the crosswalk or about to cross. And those are, the reason that they're not at more crosswalks than they are currently is that they're pretty expensive to install. So that is the type of intervention that when folks share that you're having issues crossing at a certain crosswalk, or we repeatedly know that there are issues in different areas, that's the type of intervention that we can advocate for. And unfortunately, we can't put them on all the crosswalks that we would want to because for cost reasons. But it is an intervention that's on the table in terms of helping improve safety. So we definitely want to know if there are particular areas that you think those flashing lights would really help people cross the street more safely. That's something that we'd want to know. Thank you. All right, I'm scrolling through the chat here. I see we have a 3rd District Community Engagement Officer representing Commander Todd. Thank you very much. We have contact information for the 3rd District Community Engagement Officer in the chat as well. Thank you very much, Officer Jones. All right, I see a suggestion from Arnold on a site-specific meeting for Judson and Park Lane. Arnold, that we would be happy to meet you on site and hear some more specific feedback about issues on Judson and Park Lane.
Annie, just jumping in on a couple of the tasks that I see, questions I see. One, I wanted to reiterate the goal, if it wasn't set up front in concert with the city's great work with Vision Zero. University Circle has put out a goal in these months we are in as a starting goal to zero out traffic fatalities and serious injury. I think we're doing better. The qualifier is, as somebody said in one of the chats, it's also COVID and there hasn't been as much traffic in and out of University Circle. So we need to stay vigilant, but our goal is zero pedestrian fatalities and doing everything we can to zero out fatalities and serious injury and any crashes for that matter. So we're going to stay vigilant to that goal. The second thing I wanted to say is we're very mindful that the neighborhoods adjacent to Circle need calm, peaceful streets. And we have to work, and I'm so glad that CPD and others are on this line from city, because we've got to work to keep traffic moving slowly to places of work through neighborhoods, because nobody likes speeding traffic going through their neighborhoods. And I think being the second largest employment district, we own a responsibility and we owe it to neighboring residents to not have these speeding commuter sheds through resident neighborhoods. So it's something I think we'd like to continue to work with you, leadership of block clubs, residents, council members on. And the third thing is there's been a few points in the chat about infrastructure. I think we're wide open to ideas, noting that we work in a city that's got a lot of financial responsibilities everywhere. But if there are, things we can do to make it a better pedestrian place. Annie did some really miraculous work in Councilman Griffin's ward up in Little Italy with Ray Christosic, our partner there, to simply, and frankly, financially pretty affordable intrusions to create view sheds for pedestrians at crosswalks, and basically took one parking spot out so that a pedestrian could see and not have to try to look over the hood of a truck to see into traffic. Simple things like that have mattered and added up to be safer. And for those of you that were in our summer series about mobility, you heard a lot of innovation. And then our capstone was with Jeanette Sadik-Khan, who spoke at our annual meeting. If she can tame the beast in Times Square, we can do it here. So I think we just continue to support your being a part of these and continuing to get your feedback and input, and where appropriate, meet with you at site-specific opportunities to slow traffic down. Thanks.
Thank you, Chris. We have a question from Arnold on why not put up stop signs rather than flashing lights? They cost less and more people will obey them. I would like to call my colleague Debbie Berry back on this question again on the use of stop signs for encouraging yielding rather than the flashing lights.
Yeah, thanks, Annie. Unfortunately, stop sign placement and traffic signal placement, without getting too technical, is restricted by Ohio state law. There are certain things that have to be in place, and engineers do studies to make sure that all those things are happening before you can actually put a stop sign in. So the flashing lights are helping to let drivers know there is a crosswalk there, let drivers know someone is in that crosswalk. Unless certain parameters are met and there's a whole checklist of things, you can't just put a stop sign at a crosswalk and have cars stop. Otherwise, we could potentially have stop signs everywhere, and then people would start to disobey them. So there are certain laws and regulations that we have to still work within. But if we can document there's a problem there, and again, your input helps us do that, then there's ways that we can increase the amount of notification to drivers and look at other ways to make sure that they're seeing it and they're actually stopping for pedestrians.
Thank you, Debbie. All right, and then we have another question from Jacques on maybe putting speed bumps in, and that way cars would have to slow down. This is another intervention that's often used for traffic calming. And again, speed bumps are another intervention that we have to work within the City of Cleveland's parameters for where and how to install them. There are different iterations on speed bumps have come a long way from the concrete slab in the middle of the street. There are speed tables and more gradual speed bumps that still accomplish the goal of slowing cars down while and encouraging people to yield to pedestrians crossing. So there are a number of different options there, all of which we have to consider in partnership with the City of Cleveland. All right, I see a comment from Janice about East 105th Street across from Park Lane and an orphan sidewalk. Thank you, Janice. All right, and Jacques, I see your comment too about flashing lights. And I think that goes back to your speed bump comments and that cars don't always follow them. Yes, so yes, we have to, what we would like to do is push forward a number of targeted interventions, advocate to the City of Cleveland and work with them to do more targeted traffic calming in areas where we know we have problems. So as we've shared, we want to keep an open line of communication with our community and people who are traveling through University Circle in different modes and hear your feedback. So on our website, as I mentioned before, we have that portal where you can submit your close call or near miss roadway incidences. So in the case that you do have a near miss, please let us know by filling out that form. There is lots of contact information for our team on our website. We've heard your feedback and our poll questions on how you want to be engaged. And so we will plan on another pedestrian safety advisory meeting in the second quarter of 2021 to report back on our progress and interventions on roadway safety issues. By no means do I want anyone on the call to feel like the Zoom meetings are the only way you can communicate with us or provide feedback. So know that you are, and your feedback is a priority for us, and we want to hear from you when you experience issues. A crash is too late. We don't want to wait for that time.
This is Meredith Cycle. May I interrupt?
Hi, Meredith. Sure.
Yeah, I've had some technical difficulties and lost my video, but just wanted to thank you very much for this session. And I'm looking forward to it just being a first step into something much larger to develop and grow and benefit all of us here in the circle. So thank you.
Thank you, Meredith.
Thanks, Meredith. Annie, I wasn't sure if Councilman Kamal wanted to say anything. We had remarks from Councilman Griffin earlier. Kevin, did you want to off mute and say hello?
Give my phone a second. You know, it's always ringing, which is good.
It's a good thing.
Chris, I want to thank you guys for putting this on UCI. I want to see the comments later. Email me the comments.
Yep.
And we could bring in traffic and engineering, as well as your police chief and Commander Todd, and we could have a conversation about this, as well as bring in Jim Ferguson. You know, I ride University Circle once a year, just stopping and looking at the street lights for streetlight maintenance.
Yep.
And one of the problems when I saw the streetlights that came across when you were doing your survey analysis is that the city has to cut back the vegetation from the trees, because sometimes lights are there,
Right.
but there's no vegetation. The vegetation blocks the lights, and it makes it extremely dangerous. And so those things from the checklist, we do a survey analysis. We invite everybody back. Let's say, even if it's 3 months from now, telling people this is where we're at.
Good points.
You know, we drove around with the councilman and Jim Ferguson from CPP. He got the street light maintenance done. We looked at some of the streets, because you have some streets like Wade Oval is really, not Wade Oval, let me not say Wade Oval. Some of the streets, because I walk University Circle all the time.
Yeah.
And you can have some streets that are not safe for cars, unsafe routes.
Yeah.
So we look at that. We look at the catch basins that's over there. So when you talk about street flooding, is the city, are we cleaning out the catch basins? You know, all those things, I think we sit down and we have a talk. I guess Councilmember Blaine Griffin, Councilmember Barcia Jones, we have a conversation on Zoom with the city so that we can have some great outcome measures to report to the people who are giving us their feedback.
Absolutely. Thank you, Councilman. And I don't know, Councilman Griffin, if you had any parting thoughts.
No, my colleague said it all, ditto what he said. The only thing I would encourage you to do is to really engineering. I do know that Rob Mavick had done a couple of other test runs with some technology that he used from Utah and a couple of other places. So you might want to see some of that trial technology that he used to look at some of those, because you also got a lot of people that use those side tributary streets as shortcuts so that they could try to bypass. So there's a lot of speeding on places like Random Road. I would tend to say probably Wade Park. I'll leave my expert, the Ward 9, he'll tell you where the speeding spots are. But it's these other places that people use to try to shortcut across the University Circle as well. So hopefully you don't miss out on those, because like I said, Random Road, Murray Hill is a couple of other places where people try to use shortcuts. So
thank you. You're absolutely right. And you know, from a lot of surrounding areas, we've got people coming through in a lot of different speeding fashions, and it's just something we've got to, you know, just because you're late for work doesn't mean you're gonna, you know, it's appropriate to run past somebody's neighborhood at a high speed. So we're with you on that, and I just want to thank our two councilmen who are here. They are epitome of the eyes and ears of the street. Yep.
Here's another thing about speeding. If we don't deal with quality of life, I know I was talking with Barbara, we were discussing quality of life at the coffee shop at Glen Village. If you don't deal with these things, not just crashing, and people see it's out of control, then crime would start drifting to Wade Park and Ashbury and all of that. So you got to deal with it now. You know, it's that red hot stove effect.
You're right, Councilman, and appreciate you guys. I just harken back on an event we did this summer. We had with students a Pedal with the Police program, and you know, every kid earned a bike through a summer camp that they were in with Circle and surrounding CMSD schools. And as each kid brought their bike home, I thought about their experience of riding that bike in the neighborhood. And we have to prioritize our walkers, our kids on bikes, and we've got to educate motorists that this is a resident neighborhood. So I really appreciate Chief Rapicki also being here, and Officer Jones, and members of our police team and CPD. Thank you, guys. I wanted to finally say, and Annie, I don't know if you were wrapping this up, but many people on this line, just like our council members are eyes and ears on the street. And we appreciate you calling in everything from fallen trees to infrastructure that's out to outages and all the different ways that you can do that. There are city channels to do that. There are council offices to do that. Annie put her email in the chat. On a serious infraction, 7911234 will go to CPD, UCPD, and then if it's a very serious infraction, they also will invoke CPD. So thank you guys. The partnerships here, but your eyes and ears are of paramount importance. And I think in the end, many of the things we want to address is how do we design a better future for our city and work on infrastructure changes that Howard Mayor's been experiencing all his life, and Debbie Berry and people have been working on this. Annie, we want to build better streets for people, better sidewalks, and make this a really friendly place for people of all different modes. So can't stress enough, be our eyes and ears as you are. You wouldn't be on this line if you weren't, but keep it going and encourage other neighbors. Thanks, Annie. I don't know if you want to wrap it up, or Debbie, if you've got anything else to bring, or anybody else.
I will wrap us up, Chris. I did want to offer, I saw Officer Jones turned his camera on. So Chris just mentioned CPD. Officer Jones, is there anything that you wanted to share with the group?
I had to unmute myself there. I just wanted to echo what Rich was saying, that continue to be the eyes and ears. You know, a lot of the things that concerns that we go through as community members and civilians and citizens and people that live here, sometimes they have a nasty habit of occurring over and over again, and we tend to get complacent, or you tend to get that idea as well, I just have to deal with it. These type of forums are important because we want to let people know that no, you don't have to deal with it. There is a way to change things. And so I'm glad to be a part of it, and that's why I threw my contact information in the chat. Everything does not have to be police related. If you are finding or hitting dead ends when you're trying to reach out to these different services, don't hesitate to reach out to me, and I will do my best to try to partner you up with whoever you need to be partnered up with. And I'm sure the Commander Todd feels the same way. So thanks for having me, and I'm in it. So you'll see my face again.
Thank you very much.
Chief, anything else on your end, Chief Rapicki?
I just want to thank everybody that attended tonight. And like Officer Jones said, we don't want it, especially they mentioned on Euclid Avenue, parking in the driving lane. That's something we have to address. Like Annie suggested, there's free parking in the back for half an hour. So it's good aerobics too, to get out of your car, and then you could probably order another sandwich at the Chipotle or wherever you're going. So I just saw that today, there was 2 cars at lunchtime. So we're gonna have to get our officers, you can't park in the driving lane. That impedes traffic flow and also could cause accident pedestrians too. So with that, thanks again, and hopefully we'll see you in a couple months.
Thanks, Chief.
All right, and we will be in touch, everyone, with a survey to follow up our meeting. Let us know what you thought of this meeting and how you'd like to engage going forward. We will put out the word about another Zoom meeting on the same topic in Q2 of 2021.
And we just wanted to thank you and wish you again a happy new year. I did want to say, really appreciate our council members being on this line the entire time, and want to particularly wish the new chair of our safety committee a very good year ahead. He's got a lot on his shoulders, and Councilman Kamal was once safety chair, and now Councilman Griffin is the safety chair. So good luck with our safety initiatives here in the city, Councilman. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night. We'll see you next time.
Good day.